Hello and welcome all to this live stream. I'm hoping that you guys are doing fine. If not, then either you can discuss it here if you feel to, or just find someone that you can trust that hopefully also has a healthy enough mind to help you with your mind. But always there's that one meme line of stop, get some help. Now Now let's just say that in the previous live stream we were sort of lining up and all that to do some kind of phone calls and all that to extend extend the playthrough of GTA 3 because like I've all like GTA 3 is the shortest mainline Grand Theft Auto game, while uh either that or GTA Max is the shortest. Either or could be the shortest. Well, actually, Grand Theft Auto Max hasn't really been labeled a mainline, but you know what I mean. I'm not calling GTA 3 the shortest GTA game. I'm saying that as like just as one of the main titles that isn't a DLC or. Let me just snag a vehicle. So apparently pressing hold down control makes Claude just do like a very slow walk. Don't know why.
Real sweet. She purrs, you know what I mean? Oh, here's the guy I was telling you about. Alright, listen, this guy ain't Italian and he's no mechanic, but he can get things fixed. This is Pop's copper, Tony Cipriani.
Yeah, Tony Cipriani.
Take him to Mom's restaurant at St. Mark's, alright? Now listen to me. I'm planning a job that needs a good driver, so drop by sometime later, okay?
Yeah, drive me to the laundry in Chinatown first. I got a bit of business to take care of. There's washing woman ain't preparing the protection money. And watch the car. Joey just fixed this junkie. So no fancy crap, okay?
Found the dormant conscious gymnastics. The dormitron exercises your waist. Exercises your waist. Just strap in your arms and legs, put on the dormitron headset, then wrap yourself in the special high voltage electric blanket. Turn it on to 11 and burn those pounds away while you have a relaxing night's sleep. Now that I've lost 280 pounds, my husband's all mine again.
That's right, honey. No more escort services for me. Don't be fat a day longer than you have to. Remember, being fat can even ruin a romantic cruise. Call Dormitron now at 1-800-SLEEP-OFF-LARN or visit www.sleepofflarn.com and sleep your way to a thinner, happier you.
In today's fast-paced world, a split second can be the difference between achieving your dreams and not. More Americans are realizing if you don't have the latest and greatest technological devices, you will fall behind. That's exactly why you should come visit the friendly people at House of Tomorrow, and they'll set you up with all your 21st century technology needs.
I only spent $20,000.
Wait here. Keep the engine running. This ain't a social
shoe starts from the ground up. At Errands, we make high-quality footwear. In fact, you can find Errands running shoes in over 140 countries around the world. In the past, there's been some criticism about our workers. That's why I'm here at one of the Errands factories so you can meet some of them. Excuse me, sir. Do you enjoy your job here?
It's fun. We get to play with knives.
I see. Is there a real sense of teamwork?
My friend Joey sewed his hands together.
Wow, you're learning some real skills.
Yeah, you bet.
Yesterday,
Yeah, let's just say that any kind of people who try to do that to kids should be investigated.
The inspiration for this next record comes from Dante's Inferno, originally transcribed in Braille to it.
Alright guys, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get up and let's see here. Let me like sure it's good and all that, but sometimes it could be a big yawn fest. I'll be right back guys. Just please wait. I'll even put it in the chat too.
This is Michael Hunt on Head Radio, owned by Love Media, making sure radio in every town in America sounds exactly the same. Number one for noise. Head Radio.
Would you like a kitten? Have one delivered. Just log on to petsovernight.com and we'll send you a cute kitten overnight. Petsovernight.com, delivering little bundles of love in a box directly to your door.
More tolerable, less annoying. A better variety of weird noises between songs. The station your parents warned you about. More commercials, fewer songs, bigger contests, more winners, fewer positioning statements. This is the one and only Head Radio. Head Radio. Are you ready to party? These
Hello there, Buzz. Still welcome to the stream, and same to you, AJ. Something that just kind of something came up about a weapon being available ammunition. So before we go on to the next mission, let's just check up on our weaponry.
I used to be concerned and nervous about the future. Sometimes I'd get scared before an important event such as childbirth or a family funeral. Hey, sometimes you need a little help navigating life's trouble spots. That's when I discovered Equinox.
After the divorce and losing little Tommy, life was getting me down. I couldn't focus on anything.
I don't need to send the ID. You look trustworthy.
Yeah, let's snatch up a whole bunch of micro SMG ammunition.
Hey, it's all about the money.
Police Premier Bowling Alley. I'm Mike Wheels of Steel Hunt.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. Alright, just the guy I need to talk to. Alright, there's a car stuck with a stiff at the cafe near Callahan Point. One of the Forellis thought he was a wise guy, so he got what he had coming to him. Take the corpse to the crusher in Harwood, alright?
These Broly brothers just start to bug off. Well, did you guys see that? I sort of car surfed. Guys, I just thought to pull up something to have a break from the in-game radio.
As I'm sure most of you know, Avatar was created by Mike DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. The two of them met at the Rhode Island School of Design and became close friends. After graduating, they went their separate ways to work on various animated series. Mike worked on Family Guy and King of the Hill, while Brian worked on Invader Zim. When Zim was suddenly and very tragically cancelled in 2002, Mike and Brian met to develop their own series for Nickelodeon. Both of them had similar goals in that regard, and although Mike would be out of a job while developing this series, his parents gave him their full support. Brian happened to get to know the vice president of animation development at Nickelodeon at the time while working on Zim, Eric Coleman. Eric told them that the network was looking for fantasy shows with rich lore, and though they had no ideas for it at the time, Mike promised they'd be back within a month with something to pitch. Brian had this sketch of a bald kid with a staff standing next to a giant polar bear dog and a robotic monkey. The monkey had an arrow on its head, and eventually he gave the arrow to the kid, creating what we now know to be the first drawing of Aang. Meanwhile, Mike had been watching a documentary on the survival of Sir Ernest Shackleton and his crew during an Antarctic expedition in the early 20th century, in which Shackleton ensured the survival of his entire crew against odds that seemed insurmountable. Two completely disparate things that seemingly have no relation to each other eventually came together and gave birth to the world, philosophies, and themes present in Avatar. One night, Brian is at yoga, drenched in sweat, when he suddenly has the idea to combine his drawing with the Shackleton documentary Mike was watching. He rushes over to Mike's place and they immediately get to work on fleshing out the concept. The ship stuck in the ice served as inspiration for one of the strongest symbols in the first episode of the show, and also inspired the Southern Water Tribe's plight with the Fire Nation pressing down on them. This led to the concept of the Four Nations, and in turn, bending. Eric Coleman was looking for a non-violent form of action. I'm guessing because if kids were to imitate it on the playground, they wouldn't be trying to kill each other. Bending not only accomplishes this, but each element has its own intricacies that make it fun to watch and learn about. and each form of bending serve as symbolic representations of the nature of each of the four nations and their people. To begin with, the style of martial arts for each element were informed by Sifu Kisu, the show's martial arts consultant. Mike and Brian agreed that emulating kung fu they'd seen in movies would seem derivative and repetitive before long, and Sifu Kisu's direction resulted in each element having a strong visual.
Take a goddamn seat. So the laundry won't pay any protection, huh? The triads think they can mess with me? Let's teach these would-be tough guys what it means to be a tough guy. Son. Yes, Ma? I want you to destroy their laundry vans and mangle any triad gimp that gets in your way. 8-Ball can supply you with what you're gonna need.
Visual identity to match their thematic presence in the show. Earthbending, for example, is based on Hungar. Its firm, immovable stances keep earthbenders rooted, and allow them to quite literally draw power from the planet itself. The Earth Kingdom has one of the strongest military forces in the world, serving as a thorn in the Fire Nation's side throughout the show. Attempts at taking the kingdom's capital, Ba Sing Se, failed, with Omashu only being taken after Aang reawakens and learns waterbending. The people of the Earth Kingdom are strong, and the Fire Nation just can't seem to break their roots. Well, until they do, but one step at a time here. Waterbending uses Tai Chi as a base for its movements, as the form is characterized by control, alignment, body structure, breath, and visualization. Tai Chi itself is artful and meditative as a form of martial arts, and waterbending is usually depicted through these calm and smooth movements that flow like water itself. The Water Tribe has fostered a deep respect for nature, both through their primary element and their survival in the harsh arcular movements, or circle walking. Fighters typically change direction on a dime, and the style is known for evasive footwork. This is a style that perfectly fits the way Aang airbends swirling powerful currents of air at opponents, the way he conjures up the iconic air scooter, and even informing his pacifism in certain fight scenes. This not only gives Aang a fun, identifiable fighting style, a style that grants him the affectionate nickname Twinkle Toes by Toph, but it also is symbolic of his nature, and in turn the nature of the monks that raised him, as the nomads detached themselves from worldly concerns and found peace. They had the power, but they chose not to use it for violence, instead for recreation and altruism. Fire is a complex element, and perhaps my favorite to watch the show dissect. Firebending called for Northern Shaolin according to Sifu Kisu thanks to its crisp, swift, and powerful hand and leg movements. It's violent and dangerous, but also gorgeous to witness. Throughout the show, Aang learns the hard way that firebending is dangerous when one loses control of it, and the show often portrays fire as an element that spreads and destroys, contrasting the other elements water, earth, and air that foster and sustain growth. I mean, the entire war was predicated on Sozin's desire to share the glory of their nation with the world by force through imperialism. Firebenders often draw their power from anger, as evident in Zuko and Admiral Zhao. That being said, firebending is often some of the most fun to watch in the show. The fight scenes involving firebending have some of my favorite choreography, and the element is capable of producing some really beautiful moments. Iroh, for example, is one of the greatest firebenders in the show, and he isn't exactly what you'd call an angry guy. He even learns to redirect lightning shot at him by studying waterbenders and their sense of control and flow. For an element constantly portrayed as evil, where does he draw his firebending from? In the episode The Firebending Masters, Aang and Zuko seek to discover that very thing, and they find it in the original Masters, the dragons. To the viewer, it appears just as though they've deemed them worthy in a spectacular, harmonious tornado of multicolored firebending, but we soon realize that fire inherently is not necessarily destruction, but in fact energy and life itself, like the sun. Iroh once told his nephew that he faced the last dragon and killed it, but as evident by their reemergence, he lied to protect them, and the true meaning of firebending, from those that seek to destroy them. Fire is indeed a source of life, just as the other elements are. The perception of firebending and its nation outside the mainland has been informed by a century of war. This arc was compelling not just for Aang and Zuko learning that firebending can be beautiful, but also in transforming our own perceptions of firebending, showing us that the Fire Nation's violence and hatred is taught, and that it can be changed. Let the complexity of this element and its nation foreshadow the layered character writing and thematic beauty of Avatar we will soon be diving into. The four nations and their philosophies are not only rich in their presentation through real-world martial arts, but also in how those forms are symbolic of their nature, and their cultures are all significantly fleshed out. Not to mention, they're all just really fun to watch and think about. Avatar has some of the most vividly realized settings I've ever seen in an animated television series. The settings that belong to each element are represented both in color and in appearance. The water tribes both have structures made from ice and snow. The Earth Kingdom has these massive cities with green-roofed houses and temples all around. Omashu in particular has this vertical design with mail chutes that run from the top of the city all the way to the bottom. And naturally this leads to a spectacular action sequence with characters sliding down as they bend at one another. The Fire Nation primarily uses red and dark foreboding colors with these immaculately designed temples and vehicles, with an overall militarized aesthetic. That said, certain places in the Fire Nation, particularly natural settings and quaint little villages, are genuinely breathtaking, showing that the brutal look is merely representative of what the Fire Nation had become under Fire Lords Sozin, Azulon, and Ozai, and not necessarily what they always had to be if balance were to be restored. The air temples, however, have by far my favorite concept and designs. They sit high up in the mountains, being difficult to access by attackers unless they had a flying bison. Or, you know, a tank that could climb up the side of a mountain. That works too. Inspired by Tibetan palaces, the concept of air temples being embedded into mountaintops always stuck with me. It not only is symbolic of the nomads detaching themselves, but also meant that only airbenders could feasibly reach them. Before the war began, airbenders used to fly around the temples on bison and with their gliders, representative of their true freedom. It just seems like so much fun. My favorite is the Western Air Temple, unquestionably. Probably my favorite location in the entire show. Upside-down temples underneath a cliff that allow them to hide from attackers, all the while being perfect for airbenders to traverse and explore. Of course, I could go further into the intricacies of bending, the customs of each nation and all that, but I just wanted to elaborate on why bending as a concept is friggin' genius. It didn't just fulfill the network's request for non-violent action, it transcended that request, creating a brilliant and unique form of magic for a fantasy story, one that is interlinked with the designs and backstories for the regions they hail from. And it is something that I shamelessly imitated as a kid. We all did. Whenever I was swimming in a pool or a lake, we'd have waterbending battles, swinging my arms in these wide motions to create giant waves and shoving them at people. That was the best feeling ever. Bro, I still do it, I don't care. Even now, I still wish I could heat a cup of hot cocoa that's gone cold with firebending, or get around on an air scooter. It's as inherent of a reaction to me now as wanting to use the Force to bring things to you after seeing Star Wars, and that should tell you just how effective bending was as a concept. Right, so where were we? Over the course of a couple of weeks, Mike and Brian fleshed out the four nations, the main characters, as well as the three-act structure and story arc leading to Aang confronting the Fire Lord. After 2 weeks, they pitched it to Eric Coleman. The Avatar pitch, according to the parties involved, broke pretty much every rule a pitch is supposed to follow. Rather than compressing the plot summary and character descriptions into a short time frame, Mike and Brian just went on and on about their idea, passionately detailing every aspect that they had hashed out. It was described as a in on to say, stop. Mike and Brian then had to create an 11-minute pilot for a test audience, a process that left Brian alone in Korea for months as he directed the anime.
Some insolent triad stole my beautiful car last night, wrecked it and left it burning. Some of my most precious donkey memorabilia was in the trunk. Real collectibles that are irreplaceable, my friend. I've hidden a throbbing weapon on the edge of Chinatown. Take it and teach these triad vandals to fear El Toro's well-endowed wrath. Arriba!
Yeah, so in GTA 3, the only way to get any kind of Mexican gang missions, aka the Diablos, is by which, you guys know it from many times I've already explained before. Diablo, of course, means devil. Don't know why a whole bunch of Mexicans want to be called such a thing for a gang. Maybe to be scary or something.
There being some lonely times living on his own in Korea. There was a time when they were the only ones on the planet that cared about Avatar, and they just wanted to show the world what it could be. This is a sentiment that I've held on to ever since I've watched this documentary, and it's something that I consider every time I work on a new project. There are times when I doubt if anyone will care, and times when I feel like I've failed in delivering what I wanted to say with it. The story of Avatar's production, as well as the plot of the show itself, both serve as constant inspirations in that regard. And hey, I guess the rest of the show's history speaks for itself. Avatar tapped into both what I loved about great Western fantasy stories and Japanese animation, but also fostered my love and respect for Asiatic-inspired settings and Eastern philosophies. Avatar honored all of its inspirations and became an astounding achievement in American animation that continues to inspire countless people. The pitch for Avatar came about at the best possible time. The network's desire for a lore-driven fantasy work, coupled with the rise in popularity of anime, meant that it was going to see some level of success, but the artists behind the show ensured its
Let's just say a lot of
legacy,
people
and it
consider
serves as an
Avatar Last
inspirational story of
Airbender
collaborative
anime.
effort bringing people's dreams to life. There are many reasons I continue to love Avatar to this day. I've touched upon bending, the superb animation, and the respect it pays to its inspirations, but for me, the show lives so strongly in my mind for the maturity in how it demonstrates its three central themes: war, destiny, and redemption. Its characters grapple with these themes in their own ways, and it makes them compelling not just for a show on Nickelodeon, but for any story, in any medium. From the beginning of the show, and as recounted by Katara at the beginning of each episode, the world has faced a war instigated by the Fire Nation for over 100 years. War and its effects are depicted not through soldiers fighting on a battlefield, but through the ordinary people trying to live their lives. Its immediate effects are made evident after Aang is found in the iceberg. Upon meeting the entire village, we see that there aren't a whole lot of people living at the South Pole. Seeing as the Northern Water Tribe have this beautiful stronghold, the Fire Nation saw fit to cut off communication with their sister tribe, overpowering, imprisoning, and sometimes killing any waterbenders that dare oppose them. Unfortunately, Sokka and Katara's mother Kaya wasn't so lucky to be taken as prisoner, instead being killed in a raid. In order to fight back, the physically capable men of the Water Tribe were sent off to fight the Fire Nation, leaving the two of them without their father as well, as Hakoda fought in the war away from his kids. When Aang and Katara go penguin sledding, Katara mentions that she hasn't since she was a kid, to which Aang replies that she still is a kid. A small example, but reveals how the oldest kids of the Southern Tribe were forced to grow up without their parents, and being constant witness to conflict and imprisonment of the other villagers. The episode Imprisoned also demonstrates that this kind of treatment extends to Earthbenders when their true nature is discovered, as they are kept on a giant metal ship, preventing them from bending the elements around them. That said, the Earth Kingdom did indeed have a strong military, with the capital city Ba Sing Se being impenetrable to the Fire Nation for several years, hence the meaning of its name as stated in the show, Impenetrable City. Ba Sing Se is one of the coolest settings in the entire show, with the look being inspired by the real-life Forbidden City in Beijing. It became a popular destination for refugees from the war, even though it divides its inner rings by social standing and class. But the details and conspiracy surrounding the city gradually reveal themselves to be making a victim of everyone, even if they themselves don't know it. Ba Sing Se's corrupt police force, the Dai Li, have enforced strict control over citizens, including the Earth King himself, creating an atmosphere of peace through absence of information on the war, and even brainwashing those that step out of line. According to the Earth King himself, no monarch has ever been outside of the Upper Ring. The Earth King is essentially a puppet, with the Dai Li pulling the strings. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. Here, you are safe. Speaking of victims, the Fire Nation took no chances.
A thieving opportunist has stolen a van of my latest publication hot off the press. But that spanked up idiot has left the rear doors open, and now my beautifully produced, tastefully photographed adult literature is being dropped all over Liberty. Take the van and follow that trail of Donkey Does Dallas volumes 1, 2, and 3, collecting it as you go. When you follow the trail to that thieving spankhead, waste him. Then deliver my Donkey Derby to Triple X Max in the Red Light District.
With the Air Nomads. After Avatar Roku's death, Fire Lord Sozin knew that the next Avatar would be born an Airbender, so he killed them all in a genocidal ambush, taking full advantage of their peaceful lifestyle. After Aang awakens and heads to the Southern Air Temple to hopefully reunite with his people, he finds that the place is completely deserted, save for a single lemur. He does attempt to have his fun in spite of it all, but Katara keeps trying to brace Aang for what he might see upon arriving. Aang eventually stumbles upon multiple dead Fire Nation soldiers, as well as the skeleton of his mentor and closest friend, Monk Gyatso. This is actually a pretty harrowing sight for a cartoon on Nickelodeon. I can't believe the way this is rendered in the show itself. You obviously don't see any gory details, but the design of the Fire Nation armor, the realistic painting of Monk Gyatso's skeleton, the grim lighting and the way the bodies are all piled on top of one another in front of Gyatso, Aang confronts this sight with a mixture of sadness and anger, letting loose the Avatar state before Katara eventually reaches him by telling him that she and Sokka are his family now. Aang finally accepts that he is the last Airbender, and vows to stick with Appa and Momo to keep his people alive. The episode ends with Aang flying away on Appa, with him and Momo looking back on the temple as it disappears into the clouds, one of my favorite moments in the entire show. It is accompanied by this beautiful kalimba melody, establishing one of the most powerful leitmotifs in Avatar's soundtrack, as well as encompassing Aang closing the book on past events and setting off for adventure as the Avatar, and the last of his people. This all happens in conjunction with the subplot involving the Agni Kai between Zuko and Admiral Zhao. We'll expand on their rivalry later, but this all makes the Southern Air Temple one of my favorite episodes of the show. And that's the other thing. Though the show does have an overarching narrative, there are things that happen along the journey that feel like self-contained stories. This allows for specific facets of the consequences of war to be highlighted in detail, in addition to the show's other themes, and it can even do this while still progressing the overall narrative, as showcased in the episode City of Walls and Secrets, where we learn about the Dai Li's control over Ba Sing Se. The other thing that's important to note is that it explores these things on Nickelodeon. This means that the writers often had to write for the restrictions of a children's network, leading to the concepts being explored through creative and often fun methods, while still paying respect to the serious issues at hand. Take the episode The Headband, for example, in which Aang attends a Fire Nation school by mistake after borrowing a school uniform. There he learns that the students have been indoctrinated in false beliefs of their nation's glory, with their authoritarian regime suppressing such freedoms of expression as dancing. Now, I talk about this episode as if it portrays these things with a stone-cold serious tone, but it absolutely does not, at least not all the time. But that's what makes the show so smart and so fun to watch. It delivers these messages without sacrificing the optimism of the show. Aang answers a question in a pop quiz about how the Fire Nation supposedly defeated the Air Nation army, to which he responds that they had no army, and it was an ambush. The students are shocked by this bold response, to say the least. In response to the Fire Nation kids not being able to express themselves, Aang decides to throw everyone a dance party. Naturally. Not only does this have some really fun moments, like this kid just going ham. Seriously, look at him go. We also get to see Aang and Katara share a dance, a moment where Aang is actually pretty smooth for once. Flamio, sir. All in all, the episode has the gang teach these kids to be free and have fun, something that their school's indoctrination didn't really allow for. That's really what lies at the heart of Avatar in all of its messaging. It's really fun to watch. For all of the bending, humor, and visual spectacles it features, it also manages to weave teachings of the consequences of warfare into the stories it tells. That said, it knows when the show's tone needs to shift, as demonstrated through the Air Nomad genocide and the concept of revenge. Like Aang, many characters have lost people they love to the war, and all of them grieve and respond in their own ways. Vengeance, however, is portrayed as the unhealthiest response, as it merely perpetuates the cycle of violence. Jet, for example, takes his desire for vengeance to the extreme, as it eventually consumes his state of mind. When introduced, he and his freedom fighters seem like a cool group. Jet effortlessly deals with the Fire Nation troops non-lethally using his hook swords, which I love by the way, and they live high up in the trees. It seems as though they've found complete freedom from the Fire Nation, but his methods are not always ethical. After watching him rob a defenseless old man that just happens to be a mere citizen of the Fire Nation, Sokka grows suspicious of him and finds out that he plans to wipe out an entire Earth Kingdom town that happens to have a Fire Nation garrison within it. This leads to a really cool fight in the treetops between Aang and Jet, as well as Sokka convincing the town to evacuate before they die. After the incident, Jet reappears on a boat to Ba Sing Se, with most of his freedom fighters having defected. Zuko and Iroh are on the run as refugees at this point in the show, and Jet helps Zuko steal some proper food from the captain of the ship. The dude is so focused on vengeance against the Fire Nation, however, that when he notices Iroh's previously lukewarm cup of tea has miraculously been reheated, he deduces that they must be firebenders. He doesn't actually see Iroh firebend, mind you. He just assumes that there was no other way Iroh could have reheated his tea. He was right, of course, but Jet has clearly lost some of his sanity in the pursuit of revenge. In attempting to expose Zuko and Iroh as firebenders inside of the city, the Dai Li carry him off and brainwash him into believing the war never happened. Even after Team Avatar managed to break Jet free of his brainwashing, and he is given a second chance to do what is right, he pays the ultimate price against Long Feng. As an aside, this scene went through several revisions in accordance with the network's policies against a character being killed on screen. This is part of the reason why Zhao was pulled into the water by the ocean spirit, and the only visual confirmation of Combustion Man's death was his prosthetic arm falling into the abyss after the explosion. This resulted in the writers having to figure out a solution to conveying Jet's death. The solution came in the form of a clever plot device established earlier in Book 2. Because Toph is blind and she learned to see an earthbend by sensing vibrations in the surrounding area with her feet, she also became adept in sensing the heartbeats of the people nearby, allowing her to know when someone is lying. This comes up a couple of times before Lake Laogai, especially when she senses that both Smellerbee and Jet are telling the truth during an argument, and leading them to believe he'd been brainwashed. It's when Jet is injured by Long Feng where Toph is able to provide the last bit of confirmation that Jet was going to die there. On top of Long Feng saying Jet had chosen his own demise, Katara saying things don't look good and other characters getting emotional over the state he's in, the final nail in his coffin comes when Jet says he'll be fine, and Toph says he's lying. To me, this scene worked on all fronts. I know it would have been easier to just show Jet getting beat down, but it serves as a really creative example of how they were able to write around the restrictions of the network. And hey, if you were one of the people that ever found Jet's fate unclear, the show even pokes fun at it later in the Ember Island players. Jet's death came as a bittersweet conclusion to his little redemption arc. He set aside his pursuit of revenge and delivered justice without seeing things in black and white, and putting innocent people's lives at stake. It also serves as an example of one of the most important things Iroh says to him before they part ways. that people are capable of change. He says this not just in reference to Jed, but also to his nephew, who was in clear conflict with who he was. But we'll talk about him in due time. One of my favorite episodes of how this show portrays revenge comes in one of the show's most chilling episodes, The Puppet Master. It's a poignant episode that taps into the creativity of this show's core concept to create.
So it's just that I just want to sort of listen to this one video, but without having to kind of have it on the back burner for later. So just in case you guys want to hear it, there you go.
They may be shoving a firecracker up your ass, but don't take no crap. Nobody, I mean nobody, messes with Tony Cipriani.
8 moments of genuine fear. With the backdrop of civilians going missing in a nearby Fire Nation village, the kids befriend an old woman named Hama, who happened to be a waterbender hailing from the Southern Water Tribe, Sokka and Katara's home. She teaches Katara how to draw water from all sorts of places, including the plants and flowers beneath her. One of the first visual representations of her hatred of the Fire Nation occurs when she drains all of the fire lilies in this field of their water, leaving them withered and black like the scorched earth at the beginning of the Winter Solstice episode. A chilling symbol of her hatred, and one of the more obvious hints that she might not be such a sweet old lady. With the full moon in the sky, Hama tells Katara the full story of her escape from captivity. This episode demonstrates the fascinating intricacies of waterbending, and the episode that came before this, The Runaway, features a scene where Katara uses her own sweat as a source of water to cut her way out of a jail cell. Upon seeing this on our recent viewing of the show, my friend turns to me and says something along the lines of, "So because humans are made up of mostly water, can we bend other people?" I turned back to the TV and said, "Just hang in there." When Hama was left alone with nothing but the rats that would crawl through her cell, she learned that she could bend them too. As she put it, she realized they were nothing more than skins filled with liquid. She calls it blood bending, and the animation and especially the sound design accompanying this technique are unsettling. She controls people like puppets on invisible strings, making the scene in which the gang discovers her puppet collection all the more disturbing in hindsight. This is a freaky episode as a whole, and it culminates in Katara, understandably, refusing to reach inside of people and control them like puppets, even if Hama attempts to justify her technique by reminding her of what the Fire Nation did to her mother. Naturally, Hama does not appreciate this response, and blood bends Katara into submission. I think what sells this scene for me is not only the beautiful lighting and shot composition in this dark forest under the moonlight, as well as this creepy close-up of Hama as she basks in that moonlight, but also Tress MacNeille's bone-chilling performance. You can feel the evil in her voice in a manner that is hard to put into words, as if she relishes the opportunity to take control, something that she lacked as she was left to rot in a prison cell for years. This is a different kind of evil stemming from what the Fire Nation has done, and that doesn't make it right. After the kids rescue Hama's kidnapping victims and Katara is able to resist Hama's control, Hama uses Aang and Sokka as her weapons against Katara. This scene is immaculately crafted. It demonstrates some really powerful waterbending, but I also love how Sokka is forced to swing his sword against his will, and the animation really sells that feeling that Sokka is being manipulated like a doll. Eventually, Hama forces Sokka and his sword toward Aang, and Katara has no choice but to bloodbend Hama. Hama congratulates Katara as she is carried away to prison. Horrifying.
Let's just say that even though that GTA 3 was the first game in the GTA 3D universe, other shocker is that this game is like, you know, how Rockstar did things may also made this game not only the first game in the GTA 3D universe, but also the last game in a chronological order. kind of like the same thing with how they plan out the Legend of Zelda timeline, where the very first Legend of Zelda game is apparently the last game in a chronological time order, but it's taking place in a time where, like, let's just say that there's like one timeline of Link losing and games that follow that kind of thing where you have other boys taking up the mantle of Link to take down Ganon, and as well there's but of course I think other than that timeline there's two other successful timelines of Link. One timeline like yeah, there are two successful timelines a week. One timeline is that, well, you know that. Actually, you guys may not know. Why do I say? Anyways, one timeline is where adult Link is successful, and when adult Link is successful, he may choose to stay within his adult form, which creates that timeline. While the other timeline is that Link decides to return back to his actual original time before being kind of frozen in his soul until his body was mature enough. So yeah, that's how come there's sort of three timelines within the Legend of Zelda series until they made a certain game that tied all the timelines into a new timeline where the current Legend of Zelda games are taking place in. Adult success and Link returning back to his kid form as success. Either or, he may just he may just leave Hyrule to explore the world to help them out, but in turn, he knows that somehow that Ganon would be, freed and all that, which causes a whole entire, is it so original that how original can the continuing stories even be? Still, I'm welcoming all to the stream here, so far I'm staying Buzzdo and AJ in the chats. So, anyways, I'm gonna a little bit change it to, let's just say that if you guys want to know of a certain kind of game where you can get introduced to a Grand Theft Auto like game until, your parents or whoever, cause there's certain sickening systems that rip people away from their parents and all that, and I'll get into that in the way for the future when telling more of my own life story. But anyways, let's just say that if you guys want to play a Grand Theft Auto game, but one that that some would have any kind of issues with the game rating, then definitely go for Lego City Undercover. It's basically Grand Theft Auto for younger audiences.
How you doing, kid?
Oh jeez. Let's turn off double click.
Both Jet and Hama serve as examples of the kind of person Katara could have become had she let the feelings of her mother's death consume her. The thing is, I feel that Hama's pioneering of bloodbending and her escape may have caused the Fire Nation to stop taking waterbenders prisoner, meaning that they would kill every waterbender they captured, inadvertently causing the death of Sokka and Katara's mother, as Kaya confessed that she was the last waterbender at the South Pole, a lie meant to protect Katara. The episode The Southern Raiders has Zuko presenting Katara with an opportunity to confront the man that killed her mother. Katara is intent on avenging her, even with Aang pleading for her to forgive that man. He even goes as far to liken her to Jet. Katara even says something pretty shocking to her own brother about this. When Sokka sides with Aang over whether or not to kill this man, Katara says, "Then you didn't love her the way I did." Revenge is
Let's
something
just
that can
let's
cloud your
just
judgment.
let's just say, guys, that another thing, Grand Theft Auto lore, for the Grand Theft Auto GTA universe. But basically, the reason why the Triads and the Mafia are, of course, are fighting each other here is only because of what sort of started off in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, even though I did show a stream of showing the last and final parts of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in the previous stream yesterday, all it takes is you guys with your likes and as well for you to type in the comments or in the live chat or wherever on my channel suggesting that I do show the entirety of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Oh, let's say over time I've got, like, in the past I've had a certain kind of hate or something a little bit against it, but over time I've kind of just grown over that. Gotten better.
She's good. Terrific, terrific. Now listen, you guys, you go inside while I talk to my little friend here. I see nothing but good things for you, my boy.
Hmm. If you guys, if you guys really want to think about it, it's really question. It has to be questioned of why Rockstar did what they did of having Vice City before San Andreas, because San Andreas introduces certain characters from this game at at a later point. Like, did they need a whole bunch of more time to further develop of how things went down before this game, and that they had to have something, and they had something for even San Andreas to connect. Like, sure, there's certain connections in San Andreas to have connected to Vice City, but I'm just saying that basically, that they could have had San Andreas before Vice City here, but they didn't. Oh well. Okay, we don't see the son of Salvatore's icon pop up here, so either we're done with missions, and now we just have Salvatore's, or anything like, or things like that. And yet, the other two save houses already popped up. Like GTA 3, it's either that you do a whole bunch of wacky kind of shenanigans, or you do the missions. Like, there isn't. Other than that, like, enjoy driving around the 3D world, cause
And here she is, the one and only Queen of Sheba. What were you doing up there? Whatever it was, I bet it cost me money.
Well, you don't think I hang around having conversations?
Get in the car and keep your big mouth shut. Take the limo, but bring it back in one piece. Hear me? Now watch her. She could be trouble.
Yeah. I'm sure your new laptop has everything covered. And isn't it big and strong? Hey,
coming to this channel here, definitely most expect games that are published by Rockstar or just oh, I have to get back in here. So yeah. So yeah, games made by Rockstar or games made by other publishers that are like that are sort of like Grand Theft Auto. And I also do have Bully, LA Noir, like I got some pretty a pretty great mix of titles. But I do not have the Saints Row reboot. But of course, like I showed before, I have Saints Row 2, I have Saints Row the third, and I have Saints Row 4. I do not have Saints Row reboot. That my reputation how bad the Saints Row reboot is. Try to imagine Shrek trying to flush his own huge on dumps. Like, you know how a lot of people say, like, Shrek it up in the bathroom? I imagine Shrek trying to flush a toilet, and he's really needing to get it down. That's how bad it is.
Maybe you should check out the warehouse party at the East End of Atlantic Quay. Gracias. And enjoy. And gusto.
And of course, I also have and also, in some ways, of course, I do have as well the Mafia game series too. And other than that, like I showed before, I've shown certain games in emulation. Just please, definitely subscribe and turn on all, and make sure the bell notifications are set to all, so that way you guys just don't miss any of this. But of course, the best thing for any kind of channel is that you guys interact. Just like Buzzdo and AJ have been doing. Now, another break from the GTA radio.
But regardless, she felt that she had to face him. Even when you know there's absolutely no way they're gonna let Katara kill this man on Nickelodeon, you're dying to see how she reacts when she finally comes face to face with the person that killed her mother. Katara and Zuko eventually confront the leader aboard the Raider's ship, and her hate is so powerful that she bloodbends him without a second thought, forcing him to the ground. I remember this being an incredibly shocking moment when I first saw it, as Katara used this ability she once detested solely for revenge, making her no better than Hama before her, or Jet. Though the leader isn't the man she's looking for, they are pointed toward the correct man, who retired a while back and lives with his mother. She has him right where she wants him, but she ultimately chooses not to kill him. I mean, of course she doesn't. But it's the circumstances that really elevate this scene and the episode's ending. The man is pathetic, offering up his own mother's life in exchange, and Katara feels it best to just leave him be. There was no need to succumb to the cycle of violence. The biggest thing of note here is that she doesn't forgive him, and I side with her completely. Aang does, of course, have a point when he says it's hard to forgive, but that it can be the first step to healing. In this circumstance, however, forgiveness really was impossible. Her forgiveness ends up going towards Zuko, letting that bitterness finally wash away as thanks for allowing her to seek the closure she needed. Revenge is a complex thing to experience. But living well really is the best revenge. For all of these reasons, The Southern Raiders is one of my favorite episodes of the show, as it deconstructs complicated feelings like vengeance and forgiveness through the lens of someone who lost her whole world to the war, and it's an episode I identify with to this day. It's really hard to forgive, and it's not something that can always
Hold
come
up,
easily
I
when
just
you've been
started
hurt
this
so
for
badly.
OBS.
But if and when you feel the other person has earned
Yeah,
it,
hold on.
granting them forgiveness can allow you to leave behind those negative emotions and heal.
This may be a
When it
little
comes to
bit
revenge,
cringy right
there's
now,
one more
but
thing I wanted to talk about.
let's
Aang's
display.
search for Appa is perhaps one of the hardest arcs to get through in the entire show. Not because it's bad, but because it's painful to watch the character that is the heart of the show lose his optimism and sense of self. After Appa is carried away by sandbenders as the kids escape from the sinking library, Aang lashes out at everyone before searching for Appa himself. Unfortunately, the trail is cold, instead turning his attention toward enacting revenge on the sandbenders that took Appa. This is extremely unlike Aang, but he is not about to lose the bison he grew up with. After facing such tragedies spawned from the war, the devastation of nature, the genocide of his people, and towns struck with fear, he is not about to fail or lose anyone else. At one point, Momo is carried away by a buzzard wasp, and Aang chases after it with this stone-cold look in his eyes. Even after he frees Momo, he straight up kills the damn thing and walks away. When confronting the people that stole Appa, he loses it. Even when the sandbenders offer to escort the gang out of the desert, Aang is unresponsive and everyone just flees. The only person that remains in Aang's vicinity as he ascends into the air is Katara,
Wait a minute, can
who
you guys
brings him
not
back
see
down to Earth
this?
with a single hug. A hug that says so much with so little.
Hold
Beyond
up, you
this,
guys cannot see
Aang is
that.
closed off about Appa.
Hold up, let me
He
fix
doesn't want to ever
this.
feel how he did out in the desert. It was as if he didn't want to feel anything at all, as if the thought of it was too painful. Upon escorting a group of refugees through the Serpent's Pass, however, something happens that gives him the spark he needed to persist. One of the refugees was a pregnant woman that was due to deliver her baby any second, and that time comes just as they finish crossing. Seeing them alive and well with a newborn baby having been successfully delivered, Aang feels a renewed sense of hope, and that hope carries him into Ba Sing Se. I don't want to sound like Katara in the Ember Island Players production when talking about hope, but hope is not exactly easy to maintain in circumstances as insurmountable as Aang's. I mean, he has to master all of the elements in less than a year, otherwise there really won't be a world left to save. There's so much weight on his shoulders for a goofy kid. When someone as crucial to him as Appa goes missing,
We're at war. The Triads have a fish factory as a front. Most of their business goes down at the fish market in Chinatown. The laundry still owes us protection. They reckon the Triads are protecting them now, so I say we exact a fitting punishment. Take those boys over and whack the Triad warlords. Hell, if you get a chance, pop some of their soldiers, too.
I'm gonna change it to another station, just to keep things fresh.
I can understand why it'd feel like his world is crumbling around him. That being said, and again, not to sound like a parody, hope really is all you have in a situation like that. It might be easier to avoid feeling hurt, and it might seem foolish to maintain optimism, but it really is the one thing that will keep you moving forward, even if you have to search for that sense of hope. The search for Appa does resolve, but again, I'm gonna hold off on talking about that for a bit. As a final example of how the war has made everyone a victim, let's look at Fire Lord Ozai's own brother, Iroh. The man is consistently the voice of wisdom and reason for Zuko throughout the show, and he is always greeting people outside of the Fire Nation army with a smile. The war left him a changed man. Once the great General Iroh, he failed to keep Ba Sing Se under siege, and shortly after he found out that his son Liu Ten had died in the war. After this, Iroh chose to travel with Zuko on his quest for the Avatar, but chooses not to directly help Zuko obtain him. Instead, when he acts, he does so on behalf of the greater good. At one point, after Zhao has laid bare his plans for the Fire Nation's siege of the North Pole, Iroh makes it a point to tell him that history is not always kind to its subjects, no doubt drawing that wisdom from his experience with the war, and warning Zhao of what would happen if the Moon Spirit were to be killed and the moon removed from the sky. I'll delve into some more of the wisdom he offers the show's main characters eventually, but I wanted to highlight specifically how Iroh has made it a point to greet those in need with help and kindness, something that victims of the war rarely see, and how he was able to recognize that he was on the wrong side of history. The episode titled The Tales of Ba Sing Se features a compilation of miniature adventures focusing on specific characters, with one of them centering on Iroh greeting others with kindness, as mentioned, cheering up a crying baby with a little song of his, or even helping someone that's trying to rob him believe in himself. The segment ends at sunset, with Iroh climbing a hill to honor his deceased son's birthday, and singing that same song from earlier. I really don't think I need to say more. This episode is emblematic of Avatar's ability to create wonderful bottle episodes that still
Hold on, I
some
got
emotional fulfillment.
to
But specifically with Iroh's tale,
I'm saying hold
it
on
sheds
because I
light on the
gotta
fact that
look
those
for a
with the biggest
band
hearts
in the
often get
game
hurt
with
the
a certain
most.
logo on it
Iroh inspires me to be that light
to
in other
overtake.
people's
Let's
lives.
see here. Nope, that's just a
There are
blah
many more
band,
little ways
blah
the show
band.
portrays war throughout its runtime. So much so that I originally wanted to center this video solely around the consequences of
Aha,
war.
there
But I
we
found
have
so
it,
much
there.
of that intersects with the idea that the trajectory of the war is not predestined. So many characters in this show are proof that people can change, and that destiny is something that you can decide for yourself. So when I say that this show is about war, I'm not just referring to the consequences of a battle between nations. I'm also referring to the war within oneself. Throughout the show, several characters grapple with the concept of destiny, with them eventually figuring out who they most want to be. One of my favorite characters, Toph Beifong, is a great example. She was born blind to the wealthiest family in the Earth Kingdom, being protected and supervised her whole life. She discovered earthbending from a badger mole in a cave when she was young, and badger moles are blind just like her. This led to her developing her own style of earthbending by feeling the vibrations in the earth with her feet. Without sight, her other senses are heightened, contributing to this surprisingly precise style of earthbending that is really fun to watch. When Toph discovers earthbending, she does whatever she can to enjoy her passion. Her parents don't agree with her passion, but she doesn't conform to their demands, instead traveling the world and teaching Aang earthbending. From there, she doesn't let anyone stand in her way, with only shifting sands and other non-earthy ground being obstacles for her. But even those don't stop her for long. At one point, Yu and Shin Fu capture Toph in a metal box, but she eventually realizes that metal is just purified earth, a concept that happens to link with Aang's conversation with Guru. Purities in the metal and bends her way out of that box, becoming the world's first metal bender. She locks them in the box, declaring herself to be the greatest earthbender in the world, and stylishly darting off. I love how this was built up throughout the show, witnessing metal as this unstoppable force for earthbenders, before Toph just figures it out thanks to her heightened senses, and even continues
You know what?
to
Just to
get
take
better
a
at
break
it
from
throughout
missions, I'm gonna go to what I'm gonna show you guys this one spot that I used to always be at and just having some goofy fun with the original PC version, which is sort of the first Grand Theft Auto game that I tapped into. Like before that, I was doing like Roblox Jailbreak or just games that were GTA-like until I finally got into the GTA series.
from practical experience, a street
I'm
style
a-
in a sense, while Paku had mastered traditional waterbending over the course of his entire life.
But yeah, if you
It
beat
also serves
if you
as the
beat
first
this
true
edition of the game, you
showcase of just how
practically
much Katara's
have also beaten the
waterbending has
original
improved,
version.
something that was gradually built up with each episode. One of the show's finest and most creative fight scenes for how it demonstrates different applications for waterbending, as well as growth in Katara. Eventually, Paku finds Katara's necklace on the ground, a necklace he once gave to her grandmother in an arranged marriage. She ran off on him, and Katara mentions that her grandmother wasn't about to allow the tribe's customs run her life, leading to Paku having a change of heart about teaching Katara. This also happens to connect with the subplot involving Sokka and Princess Yue. Sokka, despite being the so-called comic relief of the show, Most of his
Oh, wait a
personality
minute, I
being
can't.
crafted by Jack DeSena's voice acting
Let's
and
just say the very
improvisation,
thing that I
but he
was
also grows
using.
quite a bit over the
The
course of the
very thing I
show as he
was
finds his
using.
place in the world,
Hold
becoming
on. Let's just say that the very thing I was using for a trainer. I do not know if WebRoot or if Windows Defender purposely closed it, but it seems like ever since I put WebRoot on my laptop, and even though I left it in a group of in a group of other kind of things, and like there's a certain tab in WebRoot to block and allow and quarantine and other kind of things and flags, and I told it to allow the very trainers in the folder there. But each time I run though, I have to quickly activate things. But then because I enabled a certain, not ever wanted kind of thing, that's where basically, I can't exactly do that. Like, I would, I would have to, I would have to basically I can't exactly travel to any other garages in the game. I would have I would have to completely relaunch the game and then quickly re-enable certain things, all just to goof around with the police here. Which I'll get back to the missions then because I want to goof around with the police on stream, like you know what I mean, like. I'll show you guys what I mean, but let's just say that no matter what I'll try to do, I still won't get any kind of wanted notoriety. So I do in the original is I will come over to this part of the map right here with a 100% completion save. I wouldn't use any kind of other cheats though. I would just load up a 100% completion save, and I would not really with this weapon wheel. Like I would just scroll around for a weapon, mostly for the rocket launcher and all that. And I just wait for some cars to come along, cause some explosions, and then when the police would come, I would just like I don't know how, but it would give me some sort of laughter. I don't know if it's sadistic laughter or whatever, but I just don't do it this anymore. Like I wouldn't mind doing it actually on stream just to have a little bit of classic fun that I used to do in the game. And but I wouldn't exactly load up the original game just to do it again there. But I'd rather do it in I'd rather have such fun in this version than the original version because I'm sort of kind of because of how much I played of this definitive edition. Yes, this is the definitive edition. I've just been purposely filtering that out because so many people have their hate towards it and all that. But then again, how can I put it this way? I would have to put up some kind of hopefully still attention grabbing footage for you guys to see why I would, because I'm thinking to see if certain GTA 3 Definitive Edition mods exist or other mods for the other Definitive Trilogy games to where it would correct some other things. And as well that if anyone's bothered to make an in-game trainer because for Grand Theft San Andreas there, I didn't much have to use a external trainer just to. But then again, I could see if Wiimod has a way that I could deactivate the not ever wanted thing. Because if you use one trainer to make yourself not ever wanted, you could possibly use another. Like, basically, the standalone trainer is almost the exact same thing in Wiimod, and maybe with Wiimod I could shut off the not ever wanted just to goof around with the police a little bit. Okay, here we go. There. And also, if you guys support this channel enough, I could actually, at some point in life, afford the pro version of Wiimod. Currently, for a long time, I haven't really been putting in any cash into Wiimod and just using it for free. But then again, the pay. I don't know if anyone's found out a way how to trick Wiimod, the current versions of Wiimod, to where you could enjoy all the tips and bells and whistles of the pro version while not paying a dime to it. Okay, so right. Okay, so now we. Okay, let's see here. Set wanted level. Okay, so I'm gonna press Control F4, and I'm gonna set the wanted level to. Hmm. This is interesting. I let's just say that within Mod here, I try to pump up that was forced closed. That whatever I did to it, the code is still, being read by the game and all that, and Mod is having difficulties adjusting it. Hmm. Okay, so I may just have to do. I may just have. Like, I wish to continue with we're just doing missions and all that. But wait a minute, how many guys would like me to goof around with the police? Like, how many of you guys wouldn't mind if I were to just mess around with the police a little bit instead? But if not, then I'll continue doing the missions.
He's saved, and his kids will have a daddy to look up to. Call new beginnings today. Cinco, 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 nueve dos, nueve dos. It will be a miracle. I guarantee it. Fernando's new beginnings. We turn an ending into a new beginning.
Are you bored with man's best friend?
Sorry, Fido, we're gonna have to drown you.
Poor doggo in that commercial.
At petsovernight.com, we've
Skip
got everything in
monkeys.
stock, from spider monkeys to gorillas. You'll love your new best friend.
Mommy, Jim bit
Oh, guys, I'm just. Whoa, 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 whoa! What is that guy doing?
This is Hit Radio Love.
Check it up on the live chat. Okay, that's two people saying that, but could the three or so people that are popping up of seeing the stream here but not conversating, please come up. Hmm. I am thinking, guys, here. Hmm. Like, I'm thinking of this right now, like, but again, I like this is just to take a break from missions. I'm gonna save, quit, and then I'm going to make sure that well, yeah. Once I save, quit the game here, that's not gonna be the end of the stream. There's after that, please stay tuned. Like, I don't mean. Jeez. Oh well, this is I was just using it just to travel around, and if I lose it, oh well. Okay, I'm just gonna save over that. Okay, so okay. I'm purposely not allowing you guys to really see my tabs here. Um, oh, well, actually, for this, yeah, pretty much everything here on this tab is clean. So I'm gonna allow you guys to see my browser. I'm just gonna allow the display capture. Okay, I'm thinking here. Yes, yes, I do. I'll get back to the game. It's just I would like to see if there's a certain kind of thing that would fix the GTA 3 map here. If anyone's, but first, let's see here. definitive edition in-game trainer. Like, there's external trainers, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's basically the same trainer that I have as standalone. Is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas of the trilogy the only one that's in-game trainer? I'm gonna purposely go to where. Let's see here. Is it no? It's not that folder. I am. I'm going to be removing CSGJ3 console. Like I don't have that much of a clue to of how it all would work. So I'm just having it being removed here. But so far, the results here, the only thing that pops up is a very external trainers I already know of. Let's see here. Better OOD config. Let me just close that. So apparently someone that, if you guys are seeing this, someone has made like a simple kind of a way where, and I guess it may just go for GT3, don't know if, yeah, it seems like there's two mods that go for GT3 or the other two games of the certain trilogy here that basically doesn't trigger quote unquote cheating when you make sure that case. I am looking like yeah, let me just get back to the game here. I don't. Alright, so I'm gonna minimize this. But once the game is, once I hit resume in the game, I'll just have Wiimote hook into it instead of standalone version of it. Okay, so now since we're in, I'm going to have Wiimote like basically what I was running beforehand as the external trainer for this game. Basically, that was the standalone version that the author or the person who made the certain thing for Wiimote also either they made a standalone and then gave a certain submission to Wiimote or the other way around. But either way, by doing it by Wiimote, I should be able to enable and disable certain things. But even though I put in the exclusions for some weird reason, it was still being forced to close after enabling certain things. Okay. Um, I'm gonna stay at 0-1 level until we get the various places I showed before. I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with police, and then we'll get back to the missions. Now, let's just say the only reason why I'm not taking out my the Banshee here is only because I do not know 100% when we're going to be having a mission where we're going to be swapping vehicles or well actually since we're going to be messing with police and all that and I know that I won't get the vehicle blown up, let's just take it out for a spin instead of keeping it in the garage. Because usually for any kind of GTA game where where you would have to kind of abandon the vehicle that you had and who knows if it will despawn, that's where I just feel to keep it within lockup, but then sooner or later I may just lose interest in driving the certain vehicle. But since we're not going to be doing a mission currently and just a little bit goofing around in the world. Wait a minute. No, 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 wrong turn, wrong turn. Alright, I'm going to pause here because I'm going to... Let's see here. I'm going to go in my browser and close some things.
A strong, lovable character in his own right. Initially, he is this sexist, cynical, and immature loser, but he soon learns to respect the Kyoshi warriors after he completely embarrasses himself in their presence, asking for forgiveness and apologizing, and in particular winning Suki over with his genuine display of humility. Inspired by his dad, Sokka stepped up to defend his tribe when
Alright.
went to war, and he often proves
Let's
himself to be
see.
a crafty
Well,
warrior,
actually, since
like
I
when the
don't
Fire
have
Nation
any
attacked the
kind of
Northern Air
way
Temple, or when he
to...
goes ice dodging with Bato. Eventually, he
Blast, I don't have
develops
the
feelings for
rocket
Princess
launcher.
Yue, who happens to be in an arranged
But then
marriage with
again,
someone
if
she
I
doesn't want,
use...
just like Kana and
But
Papa.
again, if I use this...
Ultimately, she
But
turns
then
into the moon
again, I've
and fulfills
already
her
gotten
obligation to
so
the
many
moon spirit.
achievements in Grand Theft Auto
Sokka learns to
3.
move forward, but when he reunites with Suki, he can't bear the thought of losing her too. Being extraordinarily
Okay, so
protective
let me
over
just...
her until Suki...
Let me just tell you guys this. I do have... I already have... Basically... Yeah, I have already 100% of this game, so I don't give a darn. Let's just... You know what, let's just... I'm going to open up Wii... I'm going to look at Wii Mod, and I'm going to give Claude just all the weaponry. And let's just have some good old goofy, just explosive fun. It seems like nothing was triggered yet in here, so I guess we're good to go.
reminds him that she is completely capable. The dude has experienced a
Alright, where's
lot
some
of loss in
vehicles
his
at?
life, and I can't really blame him for behaving this way. That said, any scenes with Suki in front of the moon have a pretty hilarious vibe about them in hindsight, especially this one. I wonder how Yue feels about all this. Even after learning about the darkest day in Fire Nation history and preparing for battle, Sokka felt that he wasn't nearly as special as the rest of the gang. Bending is seen as a gift, something that those lucky enough to be born with should cherish.
Wait. I'm gonna purposely crank up my wanted level.
But in training with Piandao, he is recognized for his unorthodox manner of thinking and his ability to see what others cannot. Even if he isn't necessarily skilled, he still demonstrates a talent that other warriors do not have. Creativity, and that is something that should truly be cherished. other characters, the show often conveys that being true to yourself and it empathetically portrays issues that come with self-discovery and growing up. Most importantly of all, it demonstrates that everyone has the capacity to change. In the episode The Avatar and the Fire Lord, Aang and Zuko separately learn about the connection between Avatar Roku and the man that started the war, Fire Lord Sozin.
Let's get some
As it
kind of
turns out,
Cops attention
Roku
and then
and
bring them
Sozin
back
were
to that
close
point.
friends, but that friendship fell apart once Sozin informed Roku of his plan to
But then
imperialize
again,
the rest of the world.
oh
It was
yeah,
a
maybe
nice
that.
glimpse into the
Okay,
world before the
we're
war,
gonna have to definitely
as well
do
as
more
Roku's
missions.
life and
I'm
journey as the
mistaken.
Avatar. The point of this episode, however, as Aang puts
Let's
out
just
the
say
end,
that in order
is to
for that
demonstrate
bridge
that
part to
anyone is
work like I
capable
was
of great
hoping
good
to,
or great evil,
now
and that everyone
let's just
should
say
be
the second
treated as if
island would
they're
have to
worth
be
giving a
unlocked.
chance.
Like, try to
The
cause
heart of
mayhem
Avatar
right
The Last
there.
Airbender's
Like,
narrative
sure,
is
I
the
could try to cause
duality and how
mayhem
it
right now,
portrays
but
destiny through Aang and Zuko.
you
Aang's arc is a
know,
coming-of-age
let's just say
story about a
that
carefree boy
that the
reluctantly accepting that destiny
the
assigned
mayhem
to
I
him,
wanted to
while
do
still trying to
there,
maintain his own sense
let's
of
just say
self,
that
while Zuko's arc stems from
it
him
wouldn't
figuring
have
out
really
how to
worked
deny
the
a destiny
way I
someone else has
wanted it
forced him to
to
pursue.
when
In
doing,
both
because with
cases, they have a
100% safe on
responsibility
all
to live
that,
up to,
everything
but
is
Zuko's decision to
unlocked and
veer
all
away
that,
from
and
that
the
path
one
and to
issue
follow the
is
path of
about
benevolence
trying to do
serves as the
that
basis for
with
one of the
this
greatest
certain
redemption
version
stories
save
ever
is that
told. Aang
basically
and him are like yin and yang,
there is,
opposites.
you know, that there, oh, Joyous, but yeah, like basically without Claude having the way over to this island yet, there wouldn't be no car. If you guys look up right here, there would be no cars going in this direction. There were basically none, and if they are, then they do a U-turn over. So once Claude basically unlocks this island, you could then mess around with police there. But then again, I could always just load up one of my safes where I already have that unlocked and have some fun there. But I'd rather just have the I'd rather just within this certain playthrough save basically have it unlocked that way. That right there, you guys, is called human bullying. Going at certain speeds and, well, let's just say that's a way to get around certain things. What? Boo! It wants me to come back at a certain time. That means we're gonna go back to Tony. But if the mission requires us to use our vehicle, then I would have to try to get this vehicle back to that garage. But not to Joy's garage, but just the single garage.
But eternally connected.
Wait a minute, I pressed F2. I hope I didn't switch off anything in Weemon. Oh, yep.
Okay, I've had enough of this shit. We're gonna finish the triads and Liberty once and for all. 8-Ball's rigged a dust cart with a bomb. It's on a timer, so if you mess up, there'll be no evidence. Go and pick up the dust cart. Careful. 8-Ball says it's real sensitive. The slightest bump could set that thing off. Their fish factory will open its gates for a dust cart. So you can drive right in, park up between the gas canisters, and get the hell out of there. I want it to rain mackerel. We're talking real biblical here. Nothing low budget.
But yeah, basically what starts the war, one of the things that sort of starts some kind of war of the mob of the Leones being against the Triads is basically because the CJ was first more allies with the Triads in San Andreas, and before the Leones were even a startup gang, their very founder was a part of a different mafia. That, you know, he, of course, wanted to run things his way, and that's where the Leones then were born. Oh yeah, that's why I wanted to store this vehicle just in case. Oh yeah, definitely. Wait. Yeah, because T wants me to have a vehicle rigged up to blow, and I don't want to exactly lose this vehicle, so I'm just gonna store it and just grab some kind of blah.
Last weekend, when we were broadcasting live from that food court at the mall, a fan said to me,
You know, you know what? Let's see here. But then,
Let's go back to the iceberg. Aang and Katara have some fun, but a stumble into a grounded Fire Nation ship leads to them signaling their nearby location to the banished Prince Zuko. After fighting him off, Aang finally owns up to the fact that he is indeed the Avatar, but he never wanted to be. There is a moment of silence between characters here, and that melody I mentioned in the Southern Air Temple is first featured here, as can...
also, here's another. Let's just say here's another kind of gripe that I have with Legend of Korra, because at one time I was bored enough and had the curiosity, and after seeing the entire Korra series, I just have a bit of disgust. I have a bit of black marks against Korra. Like, one definite thing that makes me want to have Korra just wiped out of Avatar history, or for certain things where Korra isn't the Avatar at all, is when basically, yeah, just straight up. Okay, so let me just get to. I don't know why I'm pausing with this. So when I still say it's Korra's fault that the previous Avatar's connections were kind of disconnected from, you know, basically from I think it was not Reva, but Ravi. Like, I know it's some kind of odd sounding. Like, it's basically some one of their certain spirits and Avatar, you know, in their certain worlds, and basically, uh, let's just say that one of the big marks that I have against Korra is that she basically allowed some kind of disconnection from the previous avatars. Like, ba- basically, basically, if you think about it, one of the very rules of the one of the very things of the avatar is that when they now completely destroy any of the, you know, of the previous avatars, is that if the avatar is killed while in the avatar state, and because of one and because one of the fights that Coral was involved in, she didn't prevent one thing from happening where basically Coral, it's just so distasteful that it's hard for me to bring it up in words. But yeah, she didn't get defeated, but she, in some sort of way, didn't use her brain or whatever abilities that she possibly did have to prevent the previous avatars from being disconnected from. I'm just gonna go with Reva. I don't mean to be offensive against the Avatar community because I'm also you know, a fan of the show, and the show goes by books, not seasons. I'm looking at you, Netflix, and other people that have the day up for streaming, but it's books, and the certain in every certain episode is actually a chapter. So it's not season one, episode one. It's book one, chapter one. But yeah, basic. So yeah, I definitely have some gripes with Korra, and I say that not if that definitely if Aang did certain things to keep on going, or if he were to be wiped out during any of his adventures where he couldn't come back, it would have basically prevented Korra from doing such things, because then Korra wouldn't be an avatar. I would like to list other black marks, but that's just one of the biggest ones. That gives me to think like, yeah, Korra just either either she isn't, either she's wiped from Avatar history, or that it's shown that she does give a care to reconnect with previous avatars to make sure that the next avatar it has as well the opportunities to see the past. Anyways,
Katara aims to ease him into his responsibilities as the Avatar. Over the next several episodes, Aang faces the consequences of his decision to run away. He observes the impact the war has had on the world. This guilt and pressure keeps building until eventually he starts to have nightmares about his duty to the world. Meanwhile, although presented as a typical bad guy at first, his uncle Iroh and the introduction of Zhao give us reason to root for him, despite Zuko actively trying to capture our protagonist. At first, Zuko's purpose for this quest isn't clear beyond, honor, but in the episode The Storm, the clouds begin to part, so to speak. Against the backdrop of a terrible storm brewing, Aang has nightmares about the pressure to live up to his destiny as the Avatar. Things come to a head when an old man blames him for the last century of war and suffering at the hands of the Fire Nation, and Aang runs away once more. At the same time, Zuko casts aside the safety of his own crew in the face of the storm, instead choosing to pursue Aang. Iroh tells the crew the story of why Zuko is dead set on capturing the Avatar, while Aang tells Katara the story of why he ran away from being the Avatar. The stories have strong parallels in...
And the reason why I thought to bring up Korra though is because of that Aang said, and let's say that early in the series, Aang basically says he didn't ever want to be the Avatar, but in the series he grown into needing to be. While Korra, while she was younger, she definitely wanted to be the Avatar instead of did not want, but then she just kind of basically went for, oh, I didn't ever, like, later in time, it's like, oh, I didn't ever want to be the Avatar, like, that's just, I'm just hoping that at some point we can just rule Korra out of the canon. Like, I'd say vote Korra out as being the Avatar and have some kind of, and if people still want some kind of want some sort of female water avatar, it better be a different personality instead. I got nothing against strong female characters or, something to female characters, but Korra, like I said, due to how she was done and all that, she's just, uh, some of the things she has done are just a big, huge, shreked up thing in the toilet that's needing a whole bunch of plungers just to help get it down the toilet. Oh yeah, so let's say there is an achievement in this game where basically if you were to grab a taxi cab and purposely just bash the other taxi cab out of the way, you earn an achievement where you get the certain person that's expecting a cab to come into your cab, and that's when you'll have a better chance to strike them out. Now, since I already did it, I could choose whether to still do that, finding a taxi cab quickly, or just like here. You know what? Since I'm doing it, like even after doing it, you can still do it. Like it's kind of easier than to silently tail the taxi cab until then defeating him. Ah, crud, crud. Ah, no, 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 no. Ah, jeez. Now he's gonna be all afraid and all that. Yeah, I could give you the finger too, game. But guess what? I don't. All right, so we have so either I get there and then and trail behind them, or I quickly find some sort of taxi cab and bash the other one out of the way. Okay, non-taxi, non-taxi. Not, no, no, no. Like, you gotta really do it quickly. Of now, right? He's already out. You got. I don't know if you have to do it like this, but whoa, 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 let's rewind here. I had him ran over, and then it goes for automatically. Oh, he was spooked. Like, what? The purpose of the mission was to eliminate him, and all of a sudden you're pulling up this garbage. Like, I had him ran over. I should have gotten mission completed. Did they did when they were like I when they were originally like this game? Like, I know this isn't a complete remake but a remaster. But come on, like like no, the small complaint about this mission, especially of the original version, is that if you ran him over, the still claw was meant to basically take him out, right? As far as I know, you're supposed to take that guy out. So if you run him over, wouldn't that be mission complete then, instead of failed? So instead of hunting for a taxi to quickly bump out the other one, I'll just basically just go for the other option of secretly tailing him. Or wait a minute, hold up. Oh wait, or am I being forgetful here? Because I'm starting to recall about that this mission is basically where you have to tail him to, I guess, collect a little bit of info and then waste them. 'Cause I thought it was like automatically waste them.
Has your marriage gone stale? Has the spark gone out of your love life? Looking to add a little adventure to the monotony of monogamy? The lovers of Tanya and Fernando Martinez, founder of Fernando's New Beginnings, a revolutionary new way of saving your marriage. We understand how to give a mortgage can take the passion out of your life. With our three-step program, you'll rediscover romance.
Oh great, someone's a little bit furious with Claude.
I've got 3 kids, 2 cars, and a home. My love life is the best. Even before my wife's car accident. And I called
Okay, so
thanks to her.
let's just say that you wouldn't be dealing with the spook meter if you have quickly gotten a cab and bumped his cab way out of the way where he would just get into your cab.
Beginnings today. 55559292. It will be a miracle. I guarantee it. Fernando's New Beginnings. We turn an ending into a new beginning.
Are you bored with man's best friend?
Sorry, Fido. We're gonna have to drown
now they have established destinies they feel they must see through. But while one must own up to their destiny for the sake of the world and the greater good, the other's destiny was decided by his father when he spoke out against a heartless war plan, marked by a scar on his face delivered to him by his father, and he feels things will somehow improve once he brings Aang to him. Aang feels tremendous guilt
I
for
wasn't
turning
getting
his back
too
on his
close.
people,
That's a bunch
but
of
also
malarkey.
anger at the idea of having no control over being the Avatar and being torn away from his closest friend and guardian, Monk Gyatso. It's hard not to empathize with every emotion Aang is feeling here. Katara eventually reminds him that had he not run away, he would have been killed along with the rest of his people. With Katara's mention of things being meant to be this way, the episode touches on the notion of dwelling on how things could have gone differently. There's no sense in trying to alter the past, as the only thing that remains undecided is the future. Aang eventually resolves to make the most of things while he is still alive, and owns up to his role as the Avatar, as the Avatar gives people hope. At one point we witness flashbacks to Zuko's childhood, and his longing for things to return to the way they once were. Zuko continues to seek the Avatar, as the Avatar gives him hope. Before the end of the episode, Aang is able to save everyone from drowning amidst the storm, while Zuko chooses to respect and save the lives of his crew members. Aang and Zuko exchange a single look, symbolizing their connection through their concurrent struggles with destiny. I love this moment. I love this episode. The following episode, The Blue Spirit, has us really detesting Zhao's selfish quest for political gain in capturing the Avatar, which serves as the catalyst for us to really start rooting for Zuko. Aang is captured by the Yu Yen archers after Sokka and Katara fall ill, but a mysterious vigilante with a blue mask sets him free. The point of this episode is to demonstrate the lengths that Zuko goes to in order to keep his hope alive.
Oh, great. Just great.
Once Aang
Just
realizes
great.
that
Now it's going to be
Zuko is the Blue
instant.
Spirit, he carries him off to safety, and once he reawakens,
Oh,
Aang has
this
a brief heart-to-heart
mission.
with him. He contemplates whether or not they could have been friends had circumstances been different. Zuko firebends at him in response, but it's clear that this did have some impact.
It seems
on
like
him.
before you
At
engage
one
in this
point,
mission,
he
you have to
stares at the Fire
purposely
Nation banner in
make
his
sure
room
you have a tech seal
before
right
rolling over
on
and going to
you.
sleep. It's left ambiguous, but I feel it gives us our first hint of reconsideration on Zuko's part. It's not enough to kindle the flame, but it's the first spark. Zuko's journey to capture the Avatar reaches its climax in Book 1 as he sneaks into the North Pole while it is under siege at Zhao's command. Zhao at this point has gone mad at the prospect of power. He is a man consumed by pride, and a representation of what Zuko could become if he lets his chase for the Avatar consume him. At this rate, is the honor he seeks from his father worth restoring? Could that happiness ever actually return to him? On top of that, his uncle fully intended to confront Zhao in his decision to kill the Moon Spirit and rob all waterbenders of their power, which, despite Iroh being right in doing so, would lead to him becoming a fugitive and an enemy of the Fire Nation. Zuko would no longer be beside the man that was more of a father to him than Ozai, with Iroh even telling Zuko that he sees him as his own son after losing Liu Ten. Iroh has always been the voice of guidance and reason in Zuko's life, and his constant race to capture the Avatar is making him lose sight of who he is. Zuko successfully captures Aang while he is in the spirit world and his physical body is meditating, but with no way out of the snowstorm, he has nowhere to turn, and he is swiftly defeated once the gang arrives to rescue Aang. Aang chooses to bring him along though, feeling that he couldn't just leave him to die. You'd think after this, Zuko would respect what Aang has done for him and start listening to his uncle, right? He even receives a firm reminder of the man he could become when Zhao refuses to swallow his pride and lets the ocean swallow him whole. Zuko has a lot to think about, and he chooses not to gun it for Aang right away. For now, a man needs his rest. This moment leaves Book 1 on a hopeful note for Zuko's character. Until they introduce Zuko's sister, Azula. What can I really say about her that hasn't already been said? As yet another foil to both Aang and Zuko, Azula is a cold, ruthless war machine that chases perfection and stops at nothing to get it. Her friends are essentially scared into submission to work with her, especially
I wasn't
poor
paying attention
Kylie.
to the blasted
Her flames
spook
are
meter
blue,
every
not just to
blasted
contrast
time
Zuko's orange fire,
that you're
but also
slowly
because
down
the blue
track
part
mill.
of the flame
That
burns
possibly
hottest.
one of the other things
She
that
has
increases
some of
the
my
spook
favorite
meter
lines in the
is
entire
the
show.
very
Those
blast
lines
elder
demonstrating
drivers that
just how
that
evil
just
she
fuck at
is.
you.
She is
Like,
incapable
sure,
of
I honk
empathy,
at
with her
traffic and
own
all
mother
that in the
thinking she
game
is
just
a
to get
monster.
people moving.
And that's what makes her such a tragic character. But we'll talk more about that soon. Throughout Book 2, Zuko and Iroh are
Sorry
forced to live
guys
as
for doing this
refugees
mission
after Azula attempts to trick them
tons of
into being
times
welcomed
here.
home.
I would have got it
This
done
time
by
on the
now,
run
but
from
the
Fire
game's just
Nation
being
allows Zuko to witness
picky.
firsthand how the Fire Nation's imperialistic war has scarred people. But it is still in such conflict with his objective of restoring his honor that he doesn't truly appreciate what he has seen. Iroh still refrains from interfering with Zuko's journey of self-discovery at this point, only continuing to give Zuko words of wisdom in the faint hope that he may absorb them. Iroh knows that Zuko's source of hope is the Avatar, and seeing as they live out of caves and are surviving in the wild, he attempts to inform him that there is no shame in poverty, and that in these darkest times, hope is something you give your wanted to hear. But he still chooses not to interfere with his path, as Zuko is still clearly not listening, and any attempt to sway him would be futile. This leads us to one of the show's best episodes, Zuko Alone. The episode is written and directed like a classic Kurosawa film, as Zuko finds himself a lone warrior in a small town, caught up in the midst of conflict. In the beginning, we see hints of Zuko's strong moral compass, something that his sister lacks, and that which has made him compelling thus far. He makes crucial choices throughout this episode. In spite of his hunger, he elects not to rob the couple of their food. He chooses not to rat out the kid that threw an egg at an Earth Kingdom bully, a group of which have been taking advantage of this small town for a while. The story of his time with the kid and his family intersect with tales of Zuko's past, in which we see just how much Zuko is like his mother Ursa, and how Azula has always had those psychopathic tendencies, being more in line with her father. Azula has no tact whatsoever in these flashbacks, man. Even after it is announced that Iroh lost his son in the war, she presents no sympathy, and it's not like she's too young to understand what it means. She finds it amusing. She seemed to always be incapable of processing anyone's feelings other than hers. On the other hand, Zuko fails to impress both Ozai and his grandfather Azulon, feeling as though he is a failure in comparison to his sister. After Iroh lost his son and withdrew from the war, Ozai suggests revoking Iroh's birthright as heir to the throne, to which Azulon punishes him with the sacrifice of Ozai's firstborn, Zuko. Naturally, Azula taunts Zuko with this information before Ursa pulls her away. Just remember, Azula always lies. Catching wind of this, Ursa seemingly takes Zuko's place in this exchange, although it is left intentionally ambiguous when she leaves, only being revealed toward the end of the show. Azulon
Please
dies,
don't tell
and
us something's
Ozai takes
purpose.
the throne.
Yeah,
Without the
some
only
kind
person
of
in his
blast
life that ever
NPC
showed
is
him any
slowing
love
down
or
the cab
affection,
there.
from
Oh,
then
the
on,
annoyance.
Zuko was alone. Not exist without the other, which reminds me of his and Aang's parallel journeys. Lee fears for the fate of his brother after those Earth Kingdom soldiers inform the family of his battalion's capture, drawing parallels to Zuko's reaction when he finds out that Liu Ten was killed, and he entrusts Lee with the dagger Iroh once gave him. Lee stands up to those soldiers with that same dagger, and Zuko feels obligated to help him. I love the fight scene that follows, in which Zuko makes an effort to conceal his firebending, fighting off these soldiers with his
Okay, so the Leons are fighting wars on two fronts. They're in a turf war with the Triads, with no sign of either side giving up. Meanwhile, Joey Leon has stirred up some bad blood with the Forellis. Every day they're losing men and influence in the city. Salvatore is becoming dangerous and paranoid. He expects everybody and everything.
And with loyalty like yours, what has he possibly got to worry about?
Well, kind of like it's already been,
swords and traditional martial arts.
explained before.
Unfortunately, he can't
Basically,
keep up without his
Salvatore
firebending
only
feat,
has,
and we have one
it's
last
only like this
flashback
because of what
towards his mother
some
said
things
to him.
that CJ
No
do.
matter how things may seem to change, never forget who you are. Zuko lets loose. He firebends at the last guy and announces who he truly is. Unfortunately, that name carries with it a heavy weight. A weight that will only be
Human
lifted once
Bolin.
Zuko finds redemption. The family and the
That
entire
was a
village
strike.
turn their backs on him, and Zuko once again finds himself alone. But this time, we get the faint sense that he might have a firmer grasp on who he is and what he truly cares about. Following this is the episode The Chase, in which the gang are relentlessly pursued by Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee, to the point of sleep deprivation. First of all, Toph and Iroh, of all people, share an unexpectedly beautiful moment. At this point, Iroh is traveling without Zuko, while Toph has run away from the group for reasons not terribly dissimilar to how Zuko is feeling. Throughout this episode, Toph is adamant about not wanting anyone to worry about her.
What a ride she's gonna be, huh? Alright, listen. Get some wheels to the safe house in St. Mark's and pick up a few friends of mine. They're hitting the bank and they need a driver. I gave my word that you were the man, so don't screw this up. Get them to the bank before 5 o'clock, not a minute after.
I'm just double checking to see if there's any kind of way to adjust the aspect ratio of the game. Ah, crud. Yeah, it's this game where basically it's gonna be a bank rob. I have to find a suitable, I have to find a better vehicle. But better in this case is mean that, well, what better to confuse people of bank heist by driving a taxi?
Built from cheap labor from Zambia, Salvador, and Paraguay. This is Head Radio.
I used to be concerned and nervous about the future. Sometimes I'd get scared before an important event such as childbirth or a family funeral. Hey,
Her
sometimes you need
and wanting to carry her own weight. But Iroh, from experience, relays that there is nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you, and that if his nephew ever needs him, he'll be there. After chatting about his nephew, who he does not name by the way, Toph says that maybe he should tell him that he needs him too. After this comes one of the best climaxes of any Avatar episode. Azula and, of course, capture the Avatar. It's a wild three-way duel between each of them, and this makes for some incredibly dynamic and imaginative action involving all three characters. But they don't just rely on these three people, because Sokka and Katara eventually catch up, followed by Toph and then Iroh. Everyone is back together again, and they all have Azula cornered. And then Azula burns Iroh. Zuko is extremely distraught, and even though Katara offers to help, he doesn't trust anyone else. He just wants to make it up to his uncle. The parallels between Aang and Zuko continue in the episode Bitter Work. While Aang is faced with his natural opposite as an airbender and needs to stand his ground in order to learn earthbending, Zuko's rage and lack of focus on who he truly is prevents him from learning how to bend lightning. Lightning bending is something that Azula and Ozai both excel in, whereas Iroh has invented a method of not shooting lightning at people, but redirecting it. With this technique, Zuko is not only taught to draw wisdom from multiple places like the Avatar, but he also is able to become a hard counter to his sister by not wielding lightning, but allowing that fierce energy to flow through and out of him. I love the idea that Zuko learns not to use lightning as a weapon, but as a metaphor for his own internal struggle and not letting that destructive energy destroy him, instead letting it pass straight through. Iroh, naturally, doesn't want to have Zuko practice with real lightning, but Zuko instead searches for lightning himself, screaming at the clouds to strike him as they always have before. The clouds do not respond, and Zuko breaks down. Zuko continues to struggle with who he is as their adventures in Ba Sing Se carry on. Though Iroh and Zuko find stability in a tea shop in the lower ring, Jet's reappearance serves as a grim reflection of who Zuko could become if he lets his hunt for the Avatar consume him. much like how he reflects Katara in her desire for revenge. That is something he and Katara have in common, along with the loss of both of their mothers at the hands of the Fire Nation. In The Tale of Zuko, he actually rejects the idea of
Being bastards out, but while we're at war with the Trump, we ain't strong enough. The cartel has got bottomless funds from pushing that spank crap. If we make an open attack on them, they'll wipe the floor with us. They must
And
be
another possible reason why I'm kind of just playing
so we gotta use our
audio
heads.
sort of like that is just because, well, it's just helped me to save on whatever kind of energy that's being used for my brain and my mouth to process words into the mic.
Go and see 8-Ball. You'll need his expertise to blow up that bomb.
Boo! Boo! Come on, I'm getting confirmed here, like, is... Well, I don't know why the game is... Just... But yes, welcome all to this live stream. The more people come in and interact, kind of extends how long this live stream is.
Get a good vantage point, then I'll head in when you fire the first shot.
No matter what your geographic demographic.
Well, shoot. Having to do this mission all over again, all because it was being picky about something. And I'm guessing it'll be the same thing with the original GTA 3. I think that's everyone on there that would attack him. Okay, good, I got them all eliminated in time. Let's just say that another issue that I have, let's say one other issue that everyone on YouTube knows is that if you were to live stream or upload a gameplay recording or just even any kind of video that's allowed on YouTube, if you were to upload that very video in 1080p and all that, for some strange reason, and I don't know if they have fixed it yet, but the strange thing is that for who knows how long of a time, somehow like 1440p or higher video or gameplay footage that looks like really great, but for some strange reason 720p or 1080p, like it's not as blurry as standard definition, but it's still like I don't know what's up with that on YouTube where the gameplay you see on YouTube may or may not look as great as the very person that's playing the game when they're streaming it at 1080p. I'm thinking of ending the stream once, like, possibly I'll end the stream once we get over to this island here. I wouldn't mind playing much more than that, but hey, some people, there's such things as attention spans and all that.
It's my favorite cleaner. I'm proud of you, my boy. You kicked the shit out of those grease balls. I just got one little job for you before we can all celebrate. There's a car on the block from Luigi's club. The inside is covered in brains. We gotta help some guy make up his mind and improve the whole mess. Take it to the crusher before the cops find it.
Right now I don't feel like talking, so I'll just have something to mix with the in-game
Pursuing
radio.
a relationship with this sweet girl named Jin. Part of it probably had to do with his previous relationship with Mei, but I also think it had more to do with the fact that he didn't want to sweep her into everything. Still, I love that Zuko tells his uncle that his date was nice in the end. I can't help but wonder what things would be like if he actually did pursue a relationship with Jin. See, that's how much of an impact this episode left on me. It has all of these short stories about each character that don't progress the narrative at all, but it still stands as one of the best episodes of the entire show for what the stories stand for in the context of each character, including Appa. Right, so Appa is missing when Aang and friends arrive in Ba Sing Se.
Alright, so luckily one of the people in the gang informed Claude that this vehicle has already been rigged to blow, and this very vehicle is not in furnace, that's a cheetah. But I do wish to... and of course, I'm guessing all players, when they were first playing the game, if they didn't read that out of the top left there, they're in for a nasty surprise. And especially the nastier view in the original if you haven't saved. Like, let's just say the certain version I'm playing has autosaves, which autosaves can definitely be a miracle. And people that are just too used to doing their manual saves and have hatred for autosaves clearly just don't get that autosaves can be a big savior in gaming.
But what he doesn't understand is that it doesn't have to mean what he thinks it means. Once again, he dons the mask of the Blue Spirit and weasels his way underneath Lake Laogai, face to face with Appa. But this time, Iroh follows him, leading to not just Mako Iwamatsu's best vocal performance as the character, but also one of the most crucial moments in the entire show. Not once has Iroh ever forced Zuko to do anything, but this time, he is the most persuasive he's ever been.
Alright guys, I'm going to only pause here, only because I have to, head to the restroom. So let's see here, I'm gonna go for Rise FM.
and I are gonna have to talk. Why don't you go cruise around?
You'll need a place to lie low. There's a warehouse at the edge of Belleville that should suit your needs. Come back here to my condo when you're ready, and you and me can have a little chat.
Alright guys, I'm gonna go to this safe house right here. Let's just say that if I do feel like playing any if I do feel to play on the Vice City the certain edition trilogy here that I mentioned that I a little bit slipped out before. But if you want to do Vice City San Andreas or this game, off stream or camera, I would have to either well, of course I would be starting all over again because to me I'd rather just I don't just like have the game loaded up just to play a previous
Just in from the training
played
desk.
save
There's
that
your
I
online
already
badge
beat
has
the
been
story
completed.
of.
Since the
I
explosion,
mostly just
engineers have
have
been
a
working around
game
the clock to get
when it
traffic
comes
flowing
to
between Portland
playing
and
a game.
Salt
I
Valley
most of
once
the
again.
time just have it fired up to enjoy the story of it. Unless unless there's no kind of fresh new thought of like what to prove wrong within a already beaten gameplay save. For the time being, this will be put here. Grace period for new and used emergency vehicles. Bring them to the crane in the northeast of Portland Harbor. Also, let's just say that that in the prequel games, which should be played before the main trilogy, just to have all the build up of the entire GTA universe, is that I'm not 100% for sure what the actual story is for GTA 1 and 2, but the entirety of the GTA just franchise, um, not I don't know what like I've kind of read online down because they're top down views, and basically the certain 3D environments of either of the entire GTA universe is that it starts off with Grand Theft Auto Vice City stories, and unless the Mafia games were somehow connected, so far that's where it would begin. Grand Theft Auto Vice City stories, then Vice City, then San Andreas, then, if you would like to count Grand Theft Auto Advance, you would then it's the story of Grand Theft Auto Advance, then Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories, and then there's GTA 3. After GTA 3, if there's any kind of things that cover anything before Grand Theft Auto 4 for any kind of GTA story, then it's GTA 4, and then in the mix of GTA 4 story, there's the Lost and Darned. I would type in the actual name, cause but anyways, um, other than the Lost DLC, there's also, and I don't know why they called it that way, but the Ballad of Tony, like, those two DLCs are mixed in GTA 4, but then there was the one kind of storyline that doesn't really mix into the other, that doesn't mix into Nico, Johnny, and Luis's story. Chinatown Wars, that game, that's after, GTA 4 along with its DLCs, it's after those stories, and it's a lot of times forgotten because what happens there isn't exactly, it doesn't cause some kind of big boom enough where it counts in Grand Theft Auto Online. There wasn't ever DLCs that expanded more upon it. But I'd say that and that's things happened in between them that caused only certain things to be still there versus not being there. But anyways, that'll be it for this live stream, and